The Water and Sanitation Department has given Rand Water the go-ahead to temporarily implement water shifting in Gauteng. Certain parts of Johannesburg will also begin to experience this new water rationing from today. But what do we understand about the strategy and how effective is it in actually avoiding permanent water cuts? Let's get your analysis with research specialist in water resource management at Unisa, Professor Anja Du Plessis, who joins us via our video link this morning. Prof, it's lovely to have you on the program once again. Thanks for making time for the AM report. You know, as a start, I want to just outline some of the major issues we've seen when it comes to water provision in and around, specifically Gauteng. I mean, residents of Tsakane and Guatemala have had no water for at least about a month now. In Kirkney in Pretoria, residents there have had no water for 3 months after the Hercules West Reservoir struggled to fill up. Johannesburg suburbs, including Naturena, South Hills, Midrand, Berea, Linden, also no water for 3 days last week. In Tshwane, Rand Water and Tshwane have been blaming each other for a water outage that's affected a number of communities there for 3 days. I mean, what's just your first take of where we are when it comes to our water provision in this country? It seems to me that years after warnings, the chickens are now coming home to roost.
Unfortunately, yes, and we're absolutely sitting with systemic chaos all over the place. But let's just first look at what was the primary cause of this after the blaming game has somewhat subsided between Joburg Water, DWS, as well as Rand Water and so on. So they're basically saying that the Palmeet pump station was affected by the storm, leading taps running dry in various areas, like you mentioned now. And now their plan is to say, okay, the Palmeet pump station is now a problem, so how are we going to solve this? We'll solve it by trying to redirect supply to this pumping station until the system recovers and is able to supply badly high places. Now, this includes areas like Brixton, which I've also heard that they have now been sitting without water for 3 weeks. My question would be is that how long is this going to be implemented? How is it going to be implemented? Is the system at all designed to redirect water to a pumping station? So all of those questions still need to be answered. So water shifting is possible, but there are constraints and there are implementation issues, and it should not become the norm. So we have therefore need as a community to stand together and ask for transparency, especially in terms of how long will this be implemented and what is in the meantime being done to resolve the issue. This is not the cause of this is not only the pump station. We sat in exactly the same situation last year, September, October, where we experienced a heat wave, water consumption increased, people's taps ran dry. They once again blamed the consumer to say, we are using too much water. Yes, okay, maybe we are using above average water. But if you look at the statistics, more than 60% and in some cases 70% of treated water sent from Rand Water to Joburg Water is being lost within the system. So my question would be is that they're saying that they will pump the water once these systems has recovered. Now, how will these systems recover if we're sitting with water leakages and bursting pipes that are just running havoc across the metro? The systems will not be able to build up a buffering capacity of 24 hours. We already know that our systems are degraded to such an extent whereby it should be a buffering system of 48 hours. However, we're sitting with maybe 18 hours of buffering capacity, meaning that taps will not run dry or the system will be okay and the pressure will be relevant or as needed within the water reticulation to make sure that high-lying areas still receive water even though the maintenance takes place and the system is shut down.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a number of very valid questions. And in fact, we spoke to the Deputy Director General of the Water and Sanitation Department just a few minutes ago. And part of what he's been able to explain to us is that what further complicates the issue here is that in order to get water shifting right, you need to have consistent energy supply. We know that's simply not a reality in our country.
Exactly. Yeah. So we could see last week load shedding also wreaked once again havoc in terms of the water system. So it is very complex, and I've been calling to say that water reservoirs and pumping schemes, they should not be subjected to load shedding. Our systems are just not designed to have this constant varying pressure within our pipelines that are in some cases over 100 years old. So what you're having with load shedding, putting the system on and off, you're basically causing the system to lose pressure. And as soon as the load shedding or Eskom provides it with power once again, water is rushed through the system, and usually at a high pressure, and then your leaks then become bursting pipes.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been calling and asking to say that we need to start and address the primary causes, not just put a band-aid on something and hope for the best. Water shifting is a band-aid. It should be seen as that. It should not be implemented for a long period of time, because at the end of the day, the other question is going to be, what is the state of the pipelines between Palmeet as well as the other infrastructure places of Rand Water? Will it be able to cope with the increase in this? And then the other question will be, will these systems ever recover? Because the South African Weather Service has said Joburg will be hit with a heat wave tomorrow.
Right.
For the next 3 days, we will be experiencing temperatures above 30 degrees. So once again, now you're going to you're already sitting with this problem. Now it's going to be exacerbated by an increase in temperature. We have now also known that the country will be experiencing El Nino. And even if, as the case with the integrated Vaal River system being above 90%, our dams bursting at the seams, we've got the water. However, there seems to be no means to get the water to the population, especially now in metros. And this isn't an issue that occurred overnight.
Right.
This has been happening over the past two decades, and now the chickens has come to roost.
Exactly where I was hoping. Right, that's exactly where I was hoping to go next, Prof. You know, when we talk about the chickens coming home to roost, I mean, it almost sounds to me that we hadn't addressed the issues that we needed to along the way, and that's, I suppose, allowing us to segue into a conversation around the performance of water boards around the country. How well are they doing? Are we paying enough attention to what's actually going on there? Because over the decades, there's been all kinds of stories emerging around corruption, people who are not fit for purpose, people not meeting targets in those particular water boards. Is that possibly where we're dropping the ball?
Well, that's the first place, because the Department of Water and Sanitation, they are the main custodian of the country's water resources. So they need to be more hands-on onto municipalities as well as water boards, water utilities, etc. The Water Services Act clearly states that local municipalities are responsible to provide water of a suitable quality to the population. However, in a case where a local municipality is not functioning or is financially insolvent, the Department of Water and Sanitation, they have to jump in and they have to then address the various issues within the local municipality to ensure that the population is not adversely affected by continued water shortages, as well as now, as we're seeing, complete water outages for more than 3 weeks. That's not acceptable, especially with this being highlighted over the past 2 decades. It feels like experts, we basically repeating the same thing over and over again. And it doesn't seem to me that a clear plan has been put on the table. I would say that we need to call for a clear plan, meaning that, okay, fine, you want to implement water shifting, fine, as an intermediary response. But what is your short-term, medium, as well as long-term actions that you are going to take? And that needs to be transparent. And as we could see with the watch reports from the Blue Drop and the Green Drop reports, where it basically showed that despite the Department of Water and Sanitation sending out non-compliance letters saying that these facilities need to pull up their socks, less than 50% of these facilities actually responded. So due to the continued culture of unaccountability and non-transparency, we're going to keep on going with these issues.
Yeah.
So communities need to come together, and we will need to start placing increased pressure on all role players, because they are all, Rand Water isn't innocent, Joburg Water isn't innocent, neither is the Department of Water and Sanitation. So there has to be some kind of accountability, but we as the public and civil society need to place continued pressure on that so that we know exactly what is your plan to ensure that water of an acceptable quality is coming out of my tap.
I suppose, Prof, you've already answered my next question, so perhaps you'll give us a brief response. What do you reckon it will take to finally get this right? Is it more political will or perhaps technical expertise? Or is it, both?
It's all of the above. It is political will, which seems to be increasing over the past year or so. But it's basically, we need to address, firstly, leaking pipes and leakages. We can't just leakages as they are, because, as I said, if the pressure in the system increases, these leakages become bursting pipes. So that's the one thing. So we also need human resource capacity within our local municipalities that have said they don't have the necessary people to perform these tasks. Okay, fine. So the Department of Water and Sanitation needs to go to each and every local municipality and say to them, what are your primary issues? What are the things that we can help you with or what you need? And required budget is also going to have to put into place. Now, with government saying that we don't have any more money left, it paints a very grim and grim picture, because, okay, fine, we now want to do water shifting, but that's not a straightforward purpose. It's going to require some engineering intervention, etc. So it's difficult and it's not a pretty picture, but I think if we as a civil society and experts and everyone stand together and say, okay, we have a human resource capacity issue, we've got knowledge and expertise, we have the issue there as well, because questionable decisions are either taking place or none at all. And then we also have to improve accountability. And the only way that we're going to improve accountability if there is actual enforcement of our legislative framework within the country. And only the Department of Water and Sanitation can take that step forward. So they need to take proactive action. I know that they've been very busy in Joburg. So that I commend the Minister of being hands-on in that sense. Sure. However, we need a clear plan at this point.
Professor Anja Du Plessis, loud and clear, thanks very much as always for your time and your insights. Professor Du Plessis is a research specialist in water resource management at Unisa. Once again, Prof, thanks very much indeed.